I'm Lisa Gable, and in my life, I've been blessed with amazing opportunities. From working in the White House at 21 to running some of the most impactful global organizations. I've had the incredible fortune to learn from and work with remarkable women who blazed a trail before me. From ingenuity, I learned to demand unity of purpose. From former Air Force Secretary Barbara Barrett, I learned to replace myself with another woman when exiting a high-level position. Women helping women is how we solve tough problems, whether it's giving voice to food allergy moms to mentoring our rising leaders. On this inspiring interview series, I have the privilege of sharing the wisdom from some of the most remarkable women on the planet. Women I'm proud to call my friends and colleagues. Their advice is priceless, so join me right now for another inspirational conversation. This is Breakthrough. Today's episode is about the importance of determination and diligence to reach your dreams. Joining me today is a woman who has been a consistent voice on interracial relations since her days at the University of Virginia as an undergraduate. A lawyer and veteran of government, global risk management, and public policy at the highest level, she helps companies manage the non-market forces that impact business. I am honored to introduce you all to my friend of over a decade, Stephanie Childs, Executive Vice President, Corporate Relations, North America for Diageo. Stephanie, introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about Diageo North America.
Lisa, it's just such a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for asking me to join you. I love what you're doing at FAIR, and I'm just so glad that we have continued to work together all of these years. Diageo North America is a leading premium drinks business. We have some of the biggest brands in the business that people have heard of, icons like Crown Royal, Johnnie Walker, Kettle One Vodka, Bailey's Irish Cream. So it's really a terrific company that is a great group of marketers. I mean, the marketing that they do with the brands is just outstanding. And the thing that I love the most about Diageo is that it is a purpose-driven company. Because of the nature of the products we sell, we have a unique opportunity to teach consumers how to use our products responsibly. And we embrace that. We put a lot of energy behind it. And it's one of the things that I really enjoy promoting as part of my role.
Well, you know that Jonathan Kane on our team, our creative director, is a huge fan of whiskey and knows everything about it. So I know that he's been enjoying his off the email conversations with you all about some of your products. So Stephanie, you and I got to work together in the food and beverage industry, and we have so many strong women that we call our friends. And our focus has been together really helping other women up the career ladder. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your career journey and what attracted you to different industries and some of the women that you've worked with?
Well, I should have said earlier that I currently serve as Executive Vice President of Corporate Relations for Diageo. So in that role, I lead the government relations, the corporate communications, and the corporate social responsibility work that we do. At Diageo, we call corporate social responsibility society, but it really means our impact on society as a whole. And so in that role, I really have brought together many of the things that I've loved about other roles that I've had. My route to this job, which really is my dream job, I would say, has been, it's been up and down. There's been successes, there's been failures. I headed the Washington office at PepsiCo, which was a challenging role for me for a lot of reasons. And I spent 13 years in the technology industry, which was also, I thought, very challenging. The culture I found was challenging. Probably not ready for a Black woman leader, or at least as I experienced it. And I made the conscious decision to move back to the consumer products companies, which is where I started my career. I actually started my career as a junior lobbyist for Seagram, which is a precursor for Diageo. But I made the conscious decision to get back to the CPG industry and to food and beverage because there's such a strong group of women leaders. I found such a welcoming network there, working with you, Lisa, and then working with other leaders at companies like Nestle, Hershey's, General Mills, and Kellogg's. All of them had strong female leaders in Washington, D.C. And after many years of having several challenges, I'm so glad that I had the opportunity to move back.
Well, I know that they're happy to have you back in this industry. And I should also tell folks, because many of them are fans of this person, that you are actually the person who introduced me to Steve Dannon, who served as Senior Vice President at FAIR and was responsible for the FAST Act getting signed into law. And now Steve, like you, and what really reminded me, has gone back into the industry where he started. And so I should also point out that you're not only a mentor and friend to a lot of women, but also to men too, that you've come across and helped FAIR by giving us such a wonderful person who was with us for a long period of time. I want to go to another portion of our conversation, which is what I call holding your own. And it's really about managing a career as a single mom. And you talk a lot when we get together about the responsibilities and the burdens of managing a high-powered career as a single mom. Your first child, she's entering her junior year at college right now. Your son is in the 11th grade, starting to think about college. Can you share some tips and tricks for our moms? We have lots of moms who are listening, and we have a lot of dads who are also listening that may have had changes in their family relationships. And so this is a stressful time because people are juggling so much, and you've been juggling it for many, many years.
I have, and I'll share a little bit of personal information about myself. I am divorced. I was kind of in the unique position of having sole custody of both of my children for the last 10 years with a former spouse who wasn't financially responsible. So I have had a lot on my shoulders. And I had to, frankly, earn enough for two people in order to really give my kids everything that I wanted to give them. But I was really fortunate because, I've had a great education. I was able to go to the University of Virginia, and then I attended the University of Pennsylvania Law School. So I had a great foundation. And I also had great network of contacts, including you, Lisa, people who helped me when I needed advice and counsel. If I have one piece of advice for people, it's, take the time to continually build your network of contacts. Even during COVID, if you can just jump on a quick Zoom happy hour, or just check in with somebody on a quick email that you haven't seen lately, just to say, hey, how are you holding up? I mean, it really just makes a difference. And, we're only as good as the network that we really have. So I think everybody, just taking that time to stay in touch with people who've been helpful to you or who you've been helpful to, it's really the essence of any good career. And in government relations and advocacy, I really feel like that also applies to reaching out to people who may not always agree with you as well. And I know we're working in a very polarized environment right now, but all the more reason I feel like to make sure that you, whatever political persuasion you're at, make sure that you have some contacts that have different points of view.
Well, it's really important for people to hear the message, especially right now, because people do carry so many burdens. And actually, I get to title all of these breakthroughs. And one reason I came up with the sort of the diligence and determination message to reach your dream is that I've watched you reach that dream. While, if we think about it, your kids, when you and I first met, were elementary school and middle school. And so I've gone through that process with you, and I'm just so utterly and completely excited for the job that you have today. But I also know what it takes to get there. So let's talk a little bit about the world that you currently live in. Recently, I saw an interview with your chair and CEO who talked about the human desire to get out and socialize outside the home is stronger than ever. And trust me, we have all felt that for the last year and a half. I know that the hospitality sector was, especially hard hit. Tell us a little bit about what Diageo is doing to help the recovery.
Well, as I mentioned, there's just such a strong sense of purpose here. I think doing business profitably, but also doing business in the right way, which that means, giving back to the community. And in North America, Diageo really has a strong commitment to elevating communities of color, particularly in the areas of education and hospitality. For example, As part of our $20 million Diageo Community Fund, the company funded permanent endowments at 25 historically Black colleges and universities across the United States. We want to deeply penetrate our partnership with those colleges and universities to really have a long-standing and sustainable relationship to help create a pipeline of students that can, in turn, be owners and employees in the distilled spirits industry. We also are a founding contributor to Raising the Bar, the New York State Bar Restaurant Recovery Fund, to help businesses adjust to COVID-19 requirements and recover. So we see our responsibility to the community in the broad sense, to the hospitality community, as well as to the community of community of consumers that we serve. And we also financially supported COVID-19 recovery efforts for Chicago neighborhoods by helping to create more public spaces. So more places for people to get outside in a safe way, continue to socialize.
Well, that's fantastic. And I will tell you, I did a trip to Michigan during the past summer. And one of the things that struck me is that because they're doing so much social distancing in the restaurants, that I guess at least the town I was in changed their rules so you could actually take your bars out of the drink and sit on the curb and be 6 feet apart away from other people. And so that was my one surprise for all the accommodations people are making in order to make sure that we get out and we socialize. And that gets me to another topic, which is that young adults are once again meeting their friends for fun after work. And I'm particularly happy to hear, as the mom of a single 23-year-old school teacher, that they're dating again. So very exciting time. And we know that there are potential allergens in many a bottle, and we are a food allergy organization. There's dairy, nut, wheat ingredients are some of the most common. Tell our audience about any allergen-free products that you have.
Well, I think that I would point to the fact that one of the things that makes the company so great is that it's constantly innovating. So you'll see new flavors, new lighter, lower calorie versions of our products. So for example, with Bailey's Irish Cream, which has been a staple in a lot of people's homes and restaurants and bars, retail outlets since we started it in 1974, but its original option only included dairy. And so in 2017, it all changed and we launched a vegan Bailey's Almond, which is made of dairy-free with the use of almond milk instead of cream. And so that's just one example of the ways that we need to continue to respond to changing consumer tastes and heightened awareness of issues like food allergies, so that we can continue to be, meeting our customers' needs and still developing great tasting products that everyone can enjoy. And I think the other piece that we're really focusing on is the non-alcoholic offerings. We recently integrated a company called Seedlip, which it's a non-alcoholic, it's a botanical, but it kind of substitutes for gin. And it's actually quite delicious. And we have a number of other low and no alcohol offerings as people become more health conscious. They want to drink less, they want less calories. And so you'll continue to see more offerings like that from Diageo going forward.
That is wonderful, wonderful news. And I know being in a past role that I was working on health and wellness issues, particularly around healthy weight. So it is really exciting to see companies innovating, developing new products. We really, as the food allergy community, appreciate the Bailey's Irish Cream that's dairy-free because it allows our families and our consumers and our patients to go out and really enjoy their time and their experience by getting to taste and drink something that's different. Let's talk about another issue that I also know is close to your heart, and that is you have lent your voice to conversations around diversity, equity, and inclusion for a long time. It's not something that you've done just recently, as we said, going back to your time at UVA. And one of those areas where the distilled spirits industry is leaning in is access access to capital and the launch of a new pre-accelerator program dedicated to early stage founders from underrepresented groups. Is this enough to solve the challenge? Why is access to capital important? Tell us a little bit about the impact that this is having on inequities in the business environment, and how, one of the things I read that you mentioned was how this directly equates to wages, ability to amass capital, and build wealth for Black families.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. When we kind of deepened our journey, we were always focused on social equity at Diageo, even before I joined. But as the focus deepened after the George Floyd tragedy, we looked at our supply chain and we wanted to diversify it even further. But what really gave impetus to this is we literally couldn't find that many suppliers that could scale to really be meaningful partners to Diageo. So my CEO, who is an incredibly inspired woman named Deborah Crew, who herself is a veteran and a longtime food and beverage industry exceptional leader, she said, we need to build it. If it's not there, we need to do what's necessary to build that pipeline. So, and we knew that access to capital was fundamental. It's really, from buying supplies to connecting with your customers, it really touches every corner of your business. And if you genuinely want to grow past the startup phase, you have to focus as much on increasing your access to capital as you do marketing your business and building your sales. So without it at the right time, even the best business ideas fail. So Black entrepreneurs, as we know, still have an incredibly difficult time gaining access to capital because of historic systematic racism. And the Black community represents 12% of consumers across the US beverage alcohol category, but it's nonetheless inequitably represented within the industry from both an employment and ownership perspective, as you noted. So we have several initiatives to address that. We have Distill Ventures, which is the drink industry's first accelerator, which aims to support new and growing brands and founders to develop, scale, and sell drinks brands for the future. And in doing that, we really look for ambitious founders with great alcoholic and non-alcoholic drinks brands, and then support them to take their businesses to the next level with capital, with capacity building, and best practices. And then we also recently announced an exciting new program called Pronghorn, which is a 10-year economic impact initiative to drive diversity, equity, and inclusion in our industry. And we'll partner there as an anchor investor, and we're going to build new investors as well. It'll be a joint industry effort. And we teamed with 2 veteran Black female entrepreneurs who have deep experience in the distilled spirits industry to help build that out. And the goal, again, is to nurture new brands and new emerging businesses through our capital investment, and generate new founders and thousands of participants up and down the supply chain, including a pipeline of new employees who can be the Diageo of the future. So the idea is kind of to disrupt the industry from within and to take it upon ourselves to make the world that we want to see. Right? And not just kind of passively be like, gee, we can't find people, So it's really exciting, and it's incredibly groundbreaking. And I couldn't be more grateful to be in this position.
Well, it is amazing. And, I think that you all are going to be a benchmark against which a lot of industries measure the work that they're doing in the area of access. And I know even for the food allergy community, that's one of the way that you all have gone about this is the same way that FAIR is looking at it, which is that we're really trying to figure out what's every single lever that has to be pulled, and what's the underlying cause of the lack of equity and access in our world. And so what you all have accomplished, what you've got as plans, I encourage anybody who is listening and is interested in this topic to actually, listen to what Stephanie said, do some Googling and research, which is what I did before the interview. And it's impressive. And the actions that you're taking are applicable. They are applicable across multiple industries, multiple dimensions. It's not unique just to the industry that you're in. So I really appreciate what you all are doing in your leadership in this area. As we're wrapping up, I always ask people 3 big questions. And so my first question to you is, what women inspired you to break through?
Oh, there's just so many. This was a really hard one. You know, a lot of Black women traditionally have been unsung heroes. You know, we've been the one who have, been the workers, raised the kids, just been the backbone of the Black community. And so, I mean, I kind of fall back on the sports world because I'm a huge sports fan. So, Althea Gibson was a great tennis player early on. And just to see what's happened recently with the Williams sisters, I mean, their persistence in breaking and further breaking into the tennis, which traditionally has not been that hospitable. And then seeing, people like Simone Biles and Naomi Osaka recently stepping up to lend their voice to issues around mental health and domestic violence and abuse. It takes just incredible courage. And these women are so young. But I'm just hopeful that that's a sign that things are moving to a different phase. Women are finding their voice and they're changing the way that women are seen and heard. And so I just find that incredibly inspiring.
Well, they are all wonderful and inspiring examples for young girls and young women that are listening today to see that there's really nothing that they can't do. So when you're talking to to the next generation of female leaders, what are the key messages that you want to communicate to them?
I guess it's a couple of things. I mean, to be your best self, you've got to take time to take care of yourself. It's not, self-care is not selfish. So, take that time, that 10 minutes to grab a stretch or to get a manicure or to get a massage, whatever it is that helps you relax, because you can only, you're better giving when you really are your full self and feeling like your whole self. So I know it's hard to do it, but it's worth doing it. And then the second thing I would say is it's what I mentioned earlier. Make sure to keep massaging your network. Try every month at least, try to have a lunch or reach out to somebody you haven't talked to in a while. When the chips are down and times are tough, maybe you aren't happy with your job, you want to make a move, or maybe you've been riffed or something. I mean, you're going to need those relationships. And it's also great to continue to foster a healthy social life. So again, I kind of fall back on the self-care message a little bit because we all fail. We all do fail. I mean, life is ups and downs. And so the question is, how do you handle it when you do? And how do you get back up without losing your grace through it all? And I think that the answer to that is having a strong network of people who care about you and that you care about.
It is. It's so true. And I think what you and I have learned as we're a little bit older now is that network stays with you for your entire life. And you've been through everything together, right? I mean, you've been through being young together and starting your career. You've been through major moments in life, and life's not easy, and life has its ups and downs. And young women today through COVID are learning ups and downs, and these aren't going to be the first ones that they go through. So I love your message about your self-care, but also maintaining your network and really relying on your network, because people do want to help each other up that career ladder. So as we get to our last question, what advice do you have for a young woman watching who's trying to break through, or a woman who might be re-entering the workforce? Because we know a lot of people did take time off during the past year.
I think the thing that's really been the icing on the cake for me is when I really just sat down and figured out, what are the issues that I care about? What is it that gives me purpose in my life? And once I began to really focus in on that, and I was able to align what I wanted to do with my work and align it to purpose-driven activities, I think that's when I really started to hit my stride. So I would say, figure out what you're passionate about and then follow that. Your job might not line up perfectly, but often, you can find areas where you can really work in your passion, even creating those opportunities within the job that you're in. But staying true to who you are and following your purpose and living that purpose in some aspect of your life, whether it's at your work or your church or, whatever it may be, volunteer work. I think that's the key to a well-rounded, happy person.
I agree with you. And the bottom line is it's your life. It's nobody else's life. And, some things look good on paper and you may be pushed to do things in certain ways. But I think as we get older and maybe at different points we've made compromises in our career to do the thing we thought we should do, the reality is that's not what makes us happy. And so working with wonderful people, and it sounds like you're working with just a fabulous group of people. Today, I know you've worked with fabulous people that you and I share as mutual friends. Wonderful advice. Great hearing from you today. And Stephanie, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Lisa. Congratulations on your success. And I'm loving how you're running FAIR. Things are going great. And I just look forward to finding ways to work together going forward.
Me too. Thank you so much.